Imagine looking up at the night sky and knowing that something foreign is passing through our cosmic neighborhood right now. Not a star, not a planet, not even a familiar comet. This is 3I an object that has journeyed from far beyond our solar system, carrying with it secrets older than Earth itself. It is not just a rock hurtling through space. It is a messenger from another star system, a rare cosmic visitor that may hold clues about the origins of our universe. But as astronomers study it, the story takes a darker turn. Its path, its speed, its very nature defy expectations. And some fear it could force us to rewrite everything we know about cosmic history. We've seen interstellar visitors before. In 2017, there was Oumuamua, a bizarre object that sparked debates ranging from natural formation to alien technology. But 3IA LOS is different. It's only the third confirmed interstellar object ever detected, and its composition, trajectory, and behavior are unlike anything our telescopes have captured before. Even the most advanced space agencies admit they'll be scrambling to study it before it disappears forever into the darkness. Why? Because this could be our only chance in a lifetime to study raw material from another solar system, material untouched since the dawn of time. And yet, the deeper scientists look, the stranger it gets. In this documentary, we will journey deep into the story of 3I from its mysterious origins in a distant star system to the startling theories about what it could be. We'll uncover the science, the speculation, and the unsettling possibilities that challenge everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. This is not just a story about a rock in space. It is a story about cosmic history, alien possibilities, and the limits of human understanding. By the end, you'll all see why 3I Atlas may be one of the most important and most terrifying visitors our solar system has ever known. It began quietly, without the drama you might expect from such a monumental discovery. No blaring headlines, no breaking news, just a few lines of data streaming across the monitors of the Atlas survey team in Hawaii. The system, designed to detect incoming asteroids that could threaten Earth, had flagged something unusual. The object was faint, moving in a way that didn't match the orbital paths of familiar comets or asteroids. Its speed was wrong, its angle was wrong, and its trajectory didn't seem to belong to our solar system at all. At first, the team thought it might be a glitch, some digital artifact from a faulty reading. But as more observatories joined in, the truth became unavoidable. This wasn't from here. The object, later designated 3IITLS, was screaming through the solar system at a velocity no ordinary asteroid could achieve if it were bound by the sun's gravity. Its path traced back not to any of the planets, moons, or distant icy realms we've mapped, but to the deep void between the stars. Within hours, astronomers around the world scrambled to point their telescopes at it. The clock was ticking. Interstellar objects don't stay long. Like a ghost ship drifting into a harbor and then vanishing into the mist, 3/1 Atlas would only be visible for a short window before it slipped away forever. Every second mattered. Some compared the feeling to being a historian, handed a single page from a lost book, a book older than human civilization, older than Earth, older even than the sun itself. That page was 3I Atlas, and no one knew what story it might tell, or whether we would be ready to hear it. From the moment its interstellar origin was confirmed, 3/1 Alias became more than just another blip of light in the night sky. It became a messenger from beyond. Astronomers calculated that this object had been traveling through the galaxy for millions, maybe even billions of years. It wasn't bound to any star system, not ours, not any we know. Instead, it was a drifter, piece of alien real estate torn from its home by some ancient cosmic event and set adrift in the endless void. Its name carried weight, 3I, meaning it was only the third confirmed interstellar object ever observed in our solar system, after Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I Borisov in 2019. But unlike those earlier visitors, 3I Atlas had its own set of mysteries. It was brighter than expected for its size, and its light curve, the way it reflected sunlight as it spun, hinted at an irregular, perhaps shattered shape. Some scientists theorized it was the remains of a once larger body, torn apart by tidal forces or a catastrophic collision before its long exile began. The composition was equally intriguing. Early spectroscopic readings suggested a rich mix of volatile ices, possibly even more pristine than those in our own solar system as comets. That meant 3I Atlas might carry material completely untouched since the dawn of its birth star system. In other words, it could be a time capsule from a place we can never visit, holding secrets about how planets and life itself might form elsewhere in the universe. But with mystery came suspicion. A small but vocal group of researchers began to wonder, what if this object wasn't entirely natural? After all, Oumuamua had sparked a similar debate years earlier, with its strange acceleration and elongated shape leading some to speculate it might be an alien probe. Could 3I Atlas be another, but different? One thing was certain. Every new piece of data only deepened the mystery. And as it moved closer toward the sun, the object began to reveal behaviors no one had predicted. Behaviors that would challenge the very assumptions we had about interstellar visitors. At first, 3I Atlas behaved like a typical comet. It approached the inner solar system on a hyperbolic trajectory, heated by the sun, and released faint streams of gas and dust. But as astronomers tracked it more closely, subtle irregularities began to emerge, deviations too precise to dismiss as random noise. The object wasn't following the exact gravitational path predicted by Newton's and Einstein's equations. Tiny, unexplained accelerations were nudging it off course. For ordinary comets, such behavior is usually explained by outgassing, jets of vapor pushing against the surface. Yet in this case, the pattern of movement didn't match the timing or direction of visible gas emissions. It was as if something beneath the surface was controlling the release of energy with intent. Even more unnerving were the light fluctuations. The way 3I Atlas reflected sunlight shifted in a repeating rhythm, a steady pulse that some described as eerily mechanical. Sophisticated algorithms combing through the photometric data found a pattern that resembled binary encoding, ones and zeros, written in the language of light. Mainstream scientists cautioned against jumping to conclusions, calling it an optical illusion born of random tumbling. But for others, the data suggested something far more provocative, a signal. Then came the infrared readings. Telescopes sensitive to heat noticed a localized hotspot on the object's surface, far hotter than surrounding areas, as though an internal power source was at work. Natural explanations like solar heating or radioactive decay failed to account for its precise location or intensity. A handful of astronomers, speaking off the record, began whispering comparisons to earlier anomalies, like Oumuamua. They wondered aloud if our solar system was being visited, not by random debris, but by something deliberately engineered, a relic or reconnaissance device from a distant civilization, lost or abandoned in the dark between stars. By now, the mystery was no longer confined to scientific journals. Governments were quietly paying attention. Surveillance satellites began monitoring 3IA TLAS around the clock. And deep in classified networks, questions were being asked. If this was a visitor, had it come alone? The official reports on 3I Atlas told the public very little. A harmless interstellar comet, they said. Nothing unusual. Nothing to worry about. But behind closed doors, scientists and intelligence analysts were seeing patterns they could not ignore. Patterns buried so deeply in the data that only the most advanced analysis could pull them into the light. It started with archival comparisons. Researchers went digging through decades of astronomical records, looking for anything that matched 3I Apple's unusual characteristics. At first, nothing surfaced. But then, a graduate student at a European observatory noticed something chilling. Faint traces in infrared scans from the early 1980s. An object, eerily similar in size and speed, had briefly appeared on the edge of the solar system, then vanished without explanation. The trajectory was too erratic to be a typical comet, and far too fast to have originated within our planetary neighborhood. More anomalies emerged when analysts examined the deep space listening archives, recordings from powerful radio telescopes meant to detect cosmic background signals. In a narrow slice of frequency data, timed precisely with 3II Ass's closest day approach, there was a burst of radio noise. It lasted less than 2 seconds, but its structure was anything but random. Multiple labs independently concluded that the signal carried a repeating mathematical sequence, a sequence often proposed as a universal sign of intelligence. The deeper they dug, the stranger it became. Some of the brightest observatories in the world had logged unexplained sensor failures in the days following the object's arrival. Telescopes locked onto its coordinates would suddenly glitch, producing frames of static interspersed with images of nothing but black. It was as if the sky itself had been erased in that direction. What unsettled investigators most was a pattern hidden across unrelated datasets. Weather satellite anomalies, sudden surges in magnetospheric activity, and even subtle fluctuations in Earth's gravitational field, all coinciding with moments when 3I Atlas was at specific positions in its approach. To the public, the night sky was unchanged. But in the confidential briefings exchanged between space agencies, one idea was gaining ground, an idea too dangerous to announce without proof. The anomalies might not be caused by 3I Atlas itself, but by something it had awakened. The public narrative painted 3I Atlas as a frozen, ancient wanderer, a relic of cosmic drift with no agenda and no destination. But among a small, tightly guarded circle of researchers, an unsettling alternative began to take shape. They called it the silent probe theory. The idea was simple enough to be terrifying. What if 3I Atlas wasn't a natural object at all? What if it was an engineered machine, disguised as a comet or asteroid, silently passing through star systems to gather information? A kind of cosmic reconnaissance device, built not by humans, but by an intelligence far older and far more advanced than our own. The proponents of this theory weren't conspiracy theorists. They were veteran astronomers, planetary scientists, and even former military analysts, people who understood the implications of stealth and observation in both warfare and exploration. They pointed to its oddly reflective surface, which behaved differently depending on the angle of observation, as if it had panels or structures hidden beneath layers of ice and dust. It rotated with an almost deliberate changing its spin rate at precise intervals, movements too controlled to be explained by uneven heating or random collisions. And then there was its silence. No chemical outgassing, no debris trail, no behavior consistent with the volatile materials that define most interstellar comets. If the silent probe theory was correct, then humanity had just been visited by something with technology millions, perhaps billions of years beyond ours. A machine capable of traversing the void between stars, undetected until it chose to be seen. And perhaps that was the most chilling part. It had chosen to be seen. One chilling hypothesis gained traction in classified discussions. Maybe 3I Atlas wasn't here to collect information about, Earth at all? Maybe it was here to confirm something it already knew. Long before telescopes mapped the heavens, long before humanity understood the mechanics of the cosmos, ancient civilizations looked up at the night sky and recorded what they saw. Many of those records survive in fragments: clay tablets, temple carvings, oral traditions passed down for thousands of years. Most are poetic, describing constellations and seasonal changes. But some are different. Some speak of intruders in the sky. In the ruins of a Sumerian city, archaeologists unearthed a cuneiform tablet describing a cold star that appeared suddenly, moving against the natural flow of the heavens. It was said to reflect the fire of the sun, but carry none of its warmth, a phrase eerily consistent with the way 3i Atlas reflects light without producing any of its own. Half a world away, the Mayans recorded the arrival of a stone serpent that traveled between worlds, shedding no tail of fire like the comets they knew. It came, they claimed, during a time of great upheaval, floods, famine, and the collapse of dynasties. The text warns of its return, calling it the silent messenger. Even the medieval astronomers of the Islamic Golden Age mention anomalous objects in their star charts, objects that appeared suddenly, traveled in unusual paths, and vanished without explanation. Most historians dismiss these accounts as errors or misinterpretations. But the timing of some sightings aligns disturbingly well with modern orbital simulations of possible past interstellar visitors. The deeper researchers dug, the more unsettling the pattern became. Whenever an object matching this description appeared in human records, the years that followed were marked by profound societal shifts, wars, collapses, mass migrations. It was as if the arrival of such visitors, whether by coincidence or design, preceded eras of transformation or destruction. Was this merely the human tendency to connect unrelated events? Or were these ancient warnings a fragmented memory of something humanity has encountered before? Something that has been here watching more than once? And if that was true, then perhaps 3i Atlas wasn't our first meeting. Perhaps it was a return. When astronomers first charted the path of 3i Atlas, they expected randomness. Interstellar objects, after all, should behave like stones tossed into a pond, traveling in straight lines, shaped only by the gravity of the systems they pass through. But almost immediately, something about its route, deliberate. Instead of a simple hyperbolic curve, its approach mirrored the angles of our solar system's orbital plane with uncanny precision. Its closest pass brought it just within the observational sweet spot of Earth's telescopes, as if ensuring it would not go unnoticed. It wasn't a direct approach, but it was a visible one, just close enough to spark questions without triggering panic. Astrophysicists began running simulations. If 3i Atlas had arrived a few months earlier, it would have passed far beyond the range of most major observatories. If it had arrived later, our view would have been obstructed by the sun's glare. In both cases, we might never have seen it at all. The margin of timing was razor thin, almost impossibly so for a purely natural occurrence. Then there was its speed. Objects drifting between stars typically move according to predictable gravitational influences, but 3i Atlas seemed to accelerate ever so slightly as it left the inner solar system, as though nudged by something internal, a faint push against the void. No jets of gas or dust were detected to explain the change. It was moving in silence, but not in ignorance. One group of researchers, working outside official channels, plotted its trajectory backward through space. What they found was chilling. The projected path threaded between known star systems like stepping stones, as if it were hopping from one gravitational well to the next, a strategy that would conserve fuel for a long, interstellar journey. To the public, these findings were buried in obscure academic papers and dismissed as statistical anomalies. But among those who knew how to read the data, the implication was hard to ignore. 3I Atlas wasn't drifting. It was navigating. If that was true, then the real question became not how it arrived here, but why. It began quietly, in the back rooms of deep space monitoring stations. Long before the public even knew about 3I Adale SLA, an unmarked report began circulating between a handful of researchers. The subject line was blunt: unexplained narrowband interference, possible artificial origin. The data came from a remote radio array in the Australian outback, a place chosen specifically for its isolation from man-made interference. For years, it had scanned the skies, listening for the faint whispers of pulsars, quasars, and cosmic background noise. But now, in the days following 3I Cis's pass to Earth, it had detected something that didn't fit any known astrophysical signature: a sharp, narrow-frequency burst, repeated 3 times at precise intervals. At first, it was dismissed as equipment error. But then another listening post, this one in Greenland, reported the exact same pattern at the exact same moments. The bursts were faint, almost buried beneath the cosmic static, but they were there. And they were coming from the exact direction of 3I Atlas's outbound trajectory. The official stance was silence. The public-facing teams issued statements about random noise and natural radio reflections, carefully avoiding any suggestion of intent. But in private, the debate was far less cautious. The signal was too clean, too mathematically consistent to be a random byproduct of nature. It carried a structure, a rise and fall in amplitude that, when plotted visually, resembled a sequence. Not words, not music, but a pattern. And then came the most unsettling detail. The signal wasn't aimed at us. Its path, when traced backward, aligned not with Earth, but with a point deep in interstellar space, the same direction from which 3I Atlas had arrived. It was as if, in passing through our solar system, it had paused just long enough to send a reply. A message not meant for humanity, but for something or someone waiting far beyond the reach of our telescopes. Those who saw the unredacted files struggled with the implications. If the signal was a confirmation, a handshake between 2 distant points, then we were not the intended audience. We were bystanders who had accidentally overheard a conversation in a language we could not speak. In the quiet corners of astrophysics, a darker theory began to take root. Perhaps 3I Atlas had never come here to observe us at all. Perhaps it had come to announce that we were here. In the official records, nothing happened. There were no emergency press conferences, no headline screening of alien contact, no public acknowledgement that anything was amiss. But behind the curtain, a quiet panic began to spread. Within weeks of the first confirmed signal from 3I-ATLA-L, 8, encrypted communications surged between the world's leading space agencies. Small, closed-door meetings convened in windowless rooms. Men and women who had dedicated their careers to studying distant worlds now found themselves working on contingency plans for this one. The panic wasn't loud, it was surgical. Satellites were quietly repositioned. Deep space listening stations were ordered to scrub certain datasets from public archives. Civilian astronomers who reported anomalies were contacted by government liaisons and asked, politely but firmly, to retract their findings. Funding appeared overnight for planetary defense initiatives under vague names like Project Horizon and Sentinel Array. What few understood was that the fear had little to do with 3I-ATLA itself. It was gone now, streaking back into the cold dark between stars. The real terror was the implication of that signal, the possibility that somewhere out there, an unknown intelligence had just been notified of our existence. There was no consensus on what that intelligence might do with this knowledge. Some argued it could mean nothing. Perhaps they were explorers, scientists, or indifferent wanderers. Others painted a more troubling picture, a civilization that mapped its galaxy not for curiosity, but for conquest. A predator that didn't need to rush, because in cosmic terms, prey could not run. In secret memos, one phrase appeared again and again: contact probability escalation event. The translation was simple. If 3I Atlas was a probe, then the clock had started ticking. Somewhere in the darkness, the message it carried might already be answered. And so, the governments of Earth prepared for a possibility they could never admit to their people. New telescopes were rushed into orbit under the guise of climate monitoring. Observatories were upgraded with military-grade encryption. The SETI program quietly shifted from searching to watching. Meanwhile, the public was kept in blissful ignorance. The news cycle moved on. 31A Tylee S faded into the background, dismissed as another cosmic oddity. But in those sealed-off conference rooms, where the air always seemed too still, the unspoken question lingered. If the visitors were coming, would we even see them before it was too late? In the depths of space, there are regions so far from starlight that human eyes could never hope to see them. Vast oceans of black, broken only by the faint whisper of distant galaxies. To us, they are voids. To others, they may be vantage points. The signal from 3I Teles travels silently through this darkness, a thread of information drifting across the interstellar expanse. It didn't rush. It didn't fade. It simply moved, patient, inevitable, toward its unknown destination. If you believe the official story, no one knows where that signal went. But unofficial records, whispered between scientists who should know better than to speak, point to one possibility: a cluster of stars on the far edge of the Orion Arm, where something unusual has been detected for decades. There, hidden among the ordinary pinpricks of light, are points that flicker in strange, almost deliberate patterns. Too regular to be random, too subtle to be natural. Radio sweeps of this region return only static, but not empty static. Patterns emerge in the noise, sequences, pauses, and beats, as though someone on the other end is speaking in a language too old and too alien for us to comprehend. These could be nothing more than artifacts of measurement. But what unnerved the quiet circles of power on Earth was not the signals themselves. It was their timing. The irregular flickers had grown more frequent shortly after 3I Teles' closest pass to our Sun, as if, somewhere in that distant cluster, someone had looked up from their watch and taken notice. We call them the Watchers because we have no better name. We don't know if they are biological, artificial, or something far stranger. We don't know if they've been there for centuries or for only a handful of years. What we do know is that their region of space has been carefully mapped and then avoided. Every deep space probe we've sent in that direction has mysteriously failed. One possibility haunts the minds of those who dare think it through. What if 3I Atlas wasn't just a scout, but a handshake? A signal passed between old acquaintances, a quiet exchange in the cosmic dark that we were never meant to overhear. If that is the case, then we are no longer passive observers in a vast and indifferent universe. We are participants. Our planet, our species, has just been written into someone else's ledger. And in the language of predators, once you are marked, you are never forgotten. Some events in history are marked by explosions, bright lights, or earth-shattering noise. Others are silent, invisible, and yet they change everything. If the theories are true, then 3I Al-Ace was not a random traveler, not a rock wandering through space for eons. It was a message, one that has been received, acknowledged, and acted upon. The unsettling part is that the action may already be happening, and we would have
でも
no
大丈夫よ。
idea. Think about it. When a predator marks its prey, it doesn't always strike immediately. It watches, it studies, it waits for the perfect moment. For all we know, that moment could be decades away, or it could already be counted down to the final days. The timer may not be ticking in years or minutes, but in cosmic alignments, gravitational windows, and technological thresholds. Governments may deny the reality of this countdown, but history has shown that denial has never been a defense against inevitability. And if the watchers are indeed real, then the most dangerous thing we could do is ignore them. Perhaps the real question is not, what are they? But what do they want? A resource? A planet? An experiment? Or simply to observe what we do when we know we're not alone? If the clock is running, and all signs point to the possibility, then the moment it reaches zero will not come with a bang. It will come with a change so subtle we might miss it, until it's too late to turn back. And maybe that was always the point. So I'll leave you with this. What if our place in the universe has already been decided? What if the next great chapter of Earth's story is already written by hands that aren't human? If you've stayed with me through this journey into the unknown, I want to hear what you think. Do you believe 3I Atlas was just a comet? Or a cosmic messenger? Was its arrival random? Or a sign that something is coming? Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into the hidden truths of our universe. Like this video if you want more stories that push the limits of what we know. And comment below, because your thoughts might be the spark for the next investigation. The clock may already be ticking. The only question left is, will we be ready when it runs out?